Okay, we're going to start this with no screw-ups this time. The intros are always the hardest. Hey everyone, I'm Brian from Game Brigade, and today we are doing the Lookback series. We look back 1 month and talk about every game that I played, backed, acquired, or sold. In case you were wondering, this has been a series that we've been running for almost a full year and a half now, and has gone through some changes, and this is part of that changing system. I love the idea that we're constantly adjusting the channel, and today we have a new change. I have brought my laptop here, and we're going to try to do some picture-in-picture playing around when we talk about the games I backed, because I found that when I talked about the things I backed and don't have the photos of like the campaign, it's hard for me to talk about them. So I figured we're going to try something new, see if this works or not. If it doesn't work in editing, ignore this line and just know that it would have worked. It should have been there. So first off, last month I didn't talk about what I backed. The whole show, premise of the show, was basically what did I back, and I didn't even cover that in last month's episode, so I apologize for that. So we're going to kind of talk about, we're going to dip into those. To be honest though, the backs that I did back were like late July, basically August, so they kind of have some overflow anyways. So we're going to touch into those, and because I don't know how much power my laptop has, we're just going to go straight into that. Let's hit it. Hit the intro. Okay, so for the first game, hopefully this is working, was Dungeons of Drakkenheim, funded in 5 minutes. This one is one that I actually, I've talked about, and we'll have a little bit of story here with the next one that I backed, but I am not a RPG player. I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons RPG player, but I kind of got convinced by one of our members here on the community. They made a comment on my video from last month when I was talking about the weekly Kickstarter games that are coming out, and it actually made me consider something, and I actually ended up backing a 5e game, and this was another one I backed. So because I backed the other one, I backed this one, and this one was sold on me because of Austin over here at IV Games. If you don't know Austin, he is one of the heads of IV Studios, the creators of Moonrakers, Veiled Fate, and now Mystic Mischief. And he is a creator on YouTube where he talks about breaking down campaigns. We really don't want your video, Austin, so we're gonna skip out of that. He breaks down campaigns. He also talks about what he backed, and he does these all live streamed. So one of these videos that he had done, he talked about the Dungeons of Drakkenheim, and he was super impressed with everything they were developing, the minis, the maps. And so basically I was sold by Austin on getting on this one. I don't know much about the brothers here that made this game, and this appears to be a campaign that they ran on a YouTube channel, and because of the success of the YouTube channel and people wanting to be part of the universe, they basically created the Kickstarter for it to let other people be able to play in the same universe. Sounds cool, so I'm in. I thought it was an interesting idea, and I thought it was really neat. So that is the first one I backed, Dungeons of Drakkenheim, and I ended up going in pretty deep. I don't know, I definitely was more than that. It might have been, I think I was in this one right here, the Lords of Feast and Spoil. I wanted a lot of the cool stuff. Came with a miniature set, so we went with that one. So this is the first 5e game that I backed. Well, technically the second, we'll get to the first. So the first one, and I'm wondering if the audience member who remembers commenting this will say anything in the comment section down below. But Animal Adventures: The Faraway Sea. This is one I mentioned in the weekly Kickstarter games that are coming out. I was like, hey, I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons player, but if you follow their campaign page, you get the DM screen for free. I mentioned something like that. and I was like, this is something I probably would never play. And the comment was, you never know, you might play that with your daughter. And that actually kind of rang true with me. I thought, you know what, my little girl just turned 2. It's probably going to be a few years before we're ready to play something like this. But in the meantime, I could paint the minis and get them all ready for her. And I think it would be something fun that we could do as father and daughter. So, because to be honest, the animals are super cute. I love the idea of them. They had a lot of good stretch goals. Again, I'm not like an animal morph. I don't know what the term is, like where animals act like humans, but I do think they are pretty sweet, and so I thought this would be kind of a cool thing to get in on, and kind of start the 5e adventure for me. Who knows if I'll ever actually run a campaign. My player group has been very kind of like hit on the idea. Like they were like, yeah, let's do it. So we'll have to figure that one out, because I just we already have 2 dedicated game nights a week. So this was the second game I backed, the Faraway Sea, and I think again I went all in on this one. I definitely I think I went all in pledge, the 87 pounds, which kind of sucks. It's pounds because it's even more money in dollars, but whatever. Late pledge available. So these were both July backs. So is the final one here, Soul Raiders. This is one I actually did a preview for. I had a fun time with the preview. It was the unfortunate thing about the preview copy, the introduction, was it was so short and condensed and jammed. You couldn't really experience what the game was trying to accomplish but you could see the potential. And I kind of talked about that in my preview for this game. So I decided to go in on it. So right now I'm at $1. The Pledge Manager has not released. We'll find out where I go. I was looking at the Gwynwire edition, but again, it's 110 euros this time. But it does sound like it would be a pretty cool shelf piece if I end up keeping it in my collection. So I'm excited to see what this one looks like. This one definitely is probably the closest one in terms of like a question mark of remaining in my collection, only because I want to see how well the game fleshes out in the long run. Okay, so let's dive now into the month of August. There's only 2 games that I backed the month of August, and they were super late. The first one being Tanara's RPG 5e. What is up with me? Why am I all of a sudden getting involved in all these RPGs? Well, the fact that I've already dived in with 2 games made this a little easier to get in this one. And I've been very, very hyped on Arena, the last contest, and Tanara's Adventures. To really, I felt like this is just going to be icing on the cake. And they had an incredible day one where you got this mini for free. So reality is, I feel like it's just going to enhance the experience of even the board game I got. I really love crossover content. Now, this isn't technically crossover since it's the same product, so the same game, but you're able to get this product and you're getting stuff for the other product, which just gets enhance that content. So I was already sold on that part. But again, I'm more than happy to try to expand this 5e thing and see if it's actually going to be a thing I'm going to do. Probably going to stop around here though in terms of like going any deeper. I don't think it's worth my time to get too much stuff until I actually try one of these. But this is where I'm at. So the final game was actually a late pledge. I actually did not go in on any active campaigns that are for board games at all. I've been really trying to strive my hardest to reduce the amount of backing I'm doing, reduce the amount of shelf space and clutter that I'm getting, and only focus on the best stuff. But Aspharian Guard has been one that I've been looking at for a very long time. In fact, one of our Discord members has been part of like the playtesting group, and he kind of gives us updates every once in a while in terms of how the game's progressing, things they're looking out for. And full disclosure, I was so hoping that I would be one of the selected content creators for the shipment that just came out for like the unboxings and playtesting and impression reviews. Fortunately, I wasn't selected. And mostly I was hoping to get selected so that I can actually play the game and see, is this worth backing? And then I could do a video on should you or should you not late pledge this kind of thing. Because this game is probably one of the last pure value games in terms of content that you're getting at the price that they are listing. To get a big box game all in at $109, I think that's the all-in price. This down here, the Stonebound edition, is so incredibly hard to find these days with the current market conditions and everything, that I think this might be like the last of the true guard. I think like this and Oathsworn, in terms of like the amount of content you get for the price you're paying, is kind of like, you know, whatever. I kind of just said it. So this one offers neoprene mats, also the health chips, very similar to the look of Too Many Bones and Chip Theory games. So, and they also have the foreteller app, which is basically going to be a full narration of the story, and I really like that. And what I've been hearing from the playtesting is that if you are looking for a narrative deep story, the foreteller app is really, really impressive. So this was a late pledge. Late pledge is still going active. I had received an email that they were going to be turning off late pledges here shortly. So if this is something you're interested in, might be worth checking out. So that is the end of the laptop section. I appreciate everyone for staying. I'm going to go ahead and turn this recording off so that I'm done with my laptop, and we can just turn this off and we can move on to the next section. So that covers what I backed, and we also took care of July. So that was a little longer than I probably would have intended to, but we did. So I also wanted to have a section where we talked about maybe topics I've been thinking about. We did this last month where I had some topics I was considering. I wanted to talk about my ideas, and they're not a deep talk, not something to take a long time, but this has been something that's occurred to me a few times, and I think it's good, but I wanted to get your guys' take on it, and that is changing review scores after the fact. When I do a review of a game, I generally try to play the game between 3 and 5 times, depending on the player group, the enthusiasm with the player group. It's almost always based on the player group, to be honest, with how many games I can get, because if people are just not excited to play, one, it can affect the review because their attitudes can affect my personal score, which I don't like doing. But also, if no one's jazzed to play it, it's hard to get it to the table, especially when we have so many games that we need to play. I have to be respectful of my player group too, because it's their time, and you know, none of us are paid, so it's, you know, they're taking time to come out and play board games, and sometimes they don't want to play prototypes all the time, or whatever, Kickstarter reviews. So the idea of this, though, changing review scores, I'm very critical with my scores. I take my scores very seriously, in terms of I want to be as accurate as I can to give you where I feel like the game lands in my 10-point scale. And I also mention in the scaling, and I'll put it in the description down below. I normally put it in the review descriptions. I'll put it down there so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But it's a scaling score that as it gets higher up, as you get closer to the 10.0 mark, the scores get more and more difficult to achieve. Like a score between a score between like a 7.3 and a 7.8 are actually much harder, or much closer together than a score between a 9.5 and a 9.4. Like a 9.5 and a 9.4 are so hard to get, and I really am very critical of games as they reach up higher. And I do the point system because I want to show, I have tier breakdowns in terms of where I consider a tier to be at, between like an excellent game, a great game, a good game. In this point scale system is to kind of say how close is it to the next tier either way. If it's a 7.0, obviously that game is right on the cusp of being an average game and a good game. If it's a 7.9, it's right there, and there's usually something holding it up, and that is what the point of the review is for, is to talk about what might be holding it up from being at that next level. So that's kind of how I approach my reviews. There was one reviewer that I watched, not board game related, who basically says that once you sign a score, that's the score. That's what your gut reaction was. That was what you have to believe it, kind of thing. Like if you're signing a score, you have to believe it. So I kind of had that belief. Like, I really don't want to adjust my scores. These are my scores. That's it. But there's been specific games that I played and rated, and I'll give you one right now. Dwellings of the Vale, gave it a 9.1, I believe, which is one of the highest rated games I've ever given. And I would say that over the course of the year since I've had that game, it's probably fallen down to an 8.8 and maybe an 8.5. And it's interesting. The more you play it, the more you can find those sweet spots. And plus, other games come in and maybe reflect differently on the way you viewed that game at the time. So I thought that was interesting. And how do you reflect score changes at all, if you can? So that's a topic that I wanted to think about, kind of throw out there, see what people thought. I also think it's interesting because, when we review games, generally, we review them within a 2-week period, right? We, about a 2-week period to play as many times as we can with that period. Then we got to post the video, move on to the next game. But with a game like Dwellings of Eldervale, obviously reviewed it, we played it, we liked it, and then we played it again. Then maybe 3 months later, we played it again, and then we played it again 6 months later, right? And each play gets you a different experience. So I think it's interesting. It's definitely a way, I don't want to ramble too much on it, but I want to see what you guys thought about how you adjust scores over time, either positively or negatively. If a game, sits with you better, maybe I gave a game a 7.0 and then it now a few months later, it's found itself a place in my heart and now it's maybe a little higher. I don't know. I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on those, because I want to be as transparent as I can with all my reviews and let you guys know where things have been. So that's the topic of the day. Kind of throwing that question out there. Question of the day, I guess, is a good way. Acquired. What did I get this month? Well, again, same thing with the backing. It was very, very light, but we actually get to bring out some board games. So let's make some room. So the first thing I acquired, and we actually saw this last month because it actually arrived the day I was filming it, was Tsukayumi Full Moon Down. And I actually am kind of proud of myself because I was able to get the entire pledge. All the boxes from the unboxing video are inside this box. I did have to get rid of the inserts, which kind of sucked. But to be honest with you, it was absurd, the amount of stuff. I did reach out to Gray Fox Games regarding the box damage, which is significant in terms of the back and the peel. It's like peeling down here. Very, very disappointed in the box in terms of the damage. I mean, it's got a big old cut up here in the front. And they were like, we'll consider it. So we'll see. I personally, not the greatest response. I've had other companies be like, yeah, as soon as we're done with fulfillment, we'll fix your problem. So a little unfortunate, Gray Fox, in terms of your response on that one, especially because this wasn't like done by me. This was done by the fulfillment company, your shipping company. I think it was QLM. I don't know. I don't want to say who it was because I can't quite remember. But the whole box is just falling apart. We have that massive dent along the back, which affects the internal components because it's actually kind of raised. It's one of the reasons why I got rid of the inserts, because the inserts were actually raised on one side because of the massive dent. So that was the first game that we got. The next game is actually going to be a review this week, and that's Tournament Fishing. And we're hoping to get this played tomorrow. For our weekly game night, which is going to be on Friday this week instead of Saturday. We have a wedding I'm going to on Saturday. So I want to try to get as many games. I tried to get games in yesterday and the day before. Unfortunately, schedules were not able to work out with my friends. And I haven't played the solo mode. Maybe I can try that. I don't know. But we're hoping to get that out going starting on Friday, and we'll see if we can get some more games on Sunday, and then I'll review it and post it for the Kickstarter. This is an interesting title because the game, to me, looks really fun. Like, the way they're kind of presenting this. But I think it's interesting that every friend I've described it to, or person, they're like, that sounds really stupid. I don't know. So, we'll see. I'm excited for this one. I think it's gonna be good. I don't know. So Tournament Fishing, this is gonna be by the Gaming Goat. That was not a game I bought. That was sent to me obviously for review. But we'll try it out. In fact, this is the only game so far I have this month of reviews that I've accepted. I'm really trying my hardest to like be very picky about games I'm selecting now or accepting for review, mostly because I'm trying to make it a more curated list for the audience and games that I feel like you guys might be interested in. So we'll see. And so that was that. The last game, which will also delve into our playing, was oh my god, this one, Twilight Imperium 4th edition. Now, I actually didn't buy Twilight Imperium. I have Twilight Imperium. What I bought for this was the Prophecy of Kings expansion, as well as, I don't know if you guys can see it. Oh, jeez. Oh my god, that was such a mistake. Why did I open this? We're just gonna, oh my god. It is everywhere. So I did a test shot of like holding it upright, and oh my god, there's like fighter jets flying everywhere. Anyways, I bought the insert as well, but it's the folded space insert, and so it doesn't quite hold things as tightly as I can. So we're just unfortunately going to put that. Hey, you know, we're doing it live. You get the whole thing. So I bought this expansion because we actually got a play-in of Twilight Imperium. So we're going to talk about that. So let me pull out my phone, and we'll go chronologically down the played list, and we can talk about every game. And I kind of figured I might give you guys my impression of each game if I haven't already done so. So, move my water, even though I should be drinking it. We're gonna get out of the way. The first game that we played was Everdell Collector's Edition, and we paired this one with Pearlbrook because I think Pearlbrook is so easy to just add in for people who've never played the game that it doesn't add like a heavy layer of depth. Everdell is a game I really would like to review this game before I sell it. I bought the Kickstarter, the big box Kickstarter, so I do need to ship on my collection. I've got Spirecrest, Pearlbrook, and I still have Balefare, which I have yet to open. Because I plan on selling, I was like, oh, does it hold more value if it's still new and sealed? But Everdell is a game I've really enjoyed playing. It's again that Redwall feel that I've talked about that I've enjoyed, which is funny because literally early in this episode I was like, I don't like animals that act like humans, and this literally is this game. So everything I'm saying, just throw it out the window. It doesn't make any sense from this point on. So, but Everdell, I do like it, and there's been a big debate between like Everdell and Wingspan of which one's better. I don't think I can answer that because I don't know which one's better. I think they're both incredibly good. So we played that, and I won that game. Actually, I scored 95 points, or 95. Is that what it says? 95? I think it's what it says. And then we played Betrayal Legacy. So we hold on, this is getting out of hand. So I told you guys that we have formed our legacy group, which is more of the campaign group more than anything. And so this is a game I got months ago, maybe closer to October. Obviously it was last year. I got this, I think, in October of last year, and have never played a legacy game, like a legacy branded game. I've talked about that before on the show. And I've also, the games that have legacy-like elements, I never commit to destroying the game. It's so hard on me to destroy the game, to tear apart cards, to throw away stuff. But I told myself, with this one, we're doing it. We're tearing it apart. We're playing the game the way it's intended to play. And so far, it's been a hoot. I've loved every game we've played. It's, you know, I will say that the final, like the way Betrayal works, I'm sure this is how every version works, is you do a haunt, and there's going to be a triggering point that triggers the haunt, the thing that causes the confliction. Because at the beginning of the game, it's cooperative or semi-cooperative in the sense that we're all just doing our own thing, but we're not actively against each other. But then it will be turned into a point where there will become one person, maybe more, I don't know, that are evil, and the other players have to figure out a way to defeat them or do something to stop them. And there are times where I would say like it was anticlimactic or unbalanced. It just felt like, man, this is impossible to win. I don't know how you win this, either as the haunt or as the heroes in different scenarios. So I think that might be a problem with Betrayal in terms of like just the design or the way they made the haunts. But the actual experience that I've had through playing the game has been very positive. Mostly probably because the player group, we're having such a good time. Everyone's hooting and hollering. It's just a good experience. So I'm still enjoying it. I'm hoping to get through this game and finish it up, because there's definitely a lot more campaign games that I want to get to, and this kind of is holding us up from playing those. So that's that. So we then got 2 games of that. We then have a bunch of games of Mythic Mischief. So Mythic Mischief, this is currently on GameFound right now. Obviously, this is if you're a person who does any type of backing of Kickstarters or product at all, you know about Mythic Mischief. They have definitely gone through and done a very strong marketing campaign. And I said this one in my impressions video that it was an incredible abstract game, probably one of the best of the year that I've played myself. Very fun. The theme, definitely people are hard on the theme because they're like, it's not a theme I'd like. To be honest, the theme is like just there to serve as a tool to move the game forward. You really don't like the theme that, like, it could be any theme, to be honest with you. I actually like the theme, but that's because Halloween is one of my favorite holidays in general. So this theme plays into that Halloween-y ghosts and goblins and zombies and vampires. Like, it's to me, it's fun. And I kind of like the twist that's high school or middle school. I think it's cool. So this game, unfortunately, I had multiple people come over because I thought it would be a better game at like 4 or 3 players. I think it's really meant to be a 2-player game, but that's just my experience. So I felt bad for the extra seats that we had, but it was worth at least trying different modes or playing different stuff. So Mythic Mischief. That's by Ivy Studios. We've already talked about them today as well. And then we got Kemet, Blood and Sand. And then is it bad that I can't remember? I can't accurately give you guys a review here about my experience with Kemet, Blood and Sand. I can tell you, we played it one time. It's the only time I've played it, and I can tell you I enjoyed it. But I can't tell you why, because I can't remember the game. And that's weird. I mean, I had one drink of bourbon, but that's not enough to like make me forget the experience, and I can remember everything else. So I'm wondering if that's a reflection of Kemet at all. I did think it was fun. I thought the combat was interesting. I don't want to lie and say, I don't remember. I need to play it more. I need to play it again. And we had a play group last night. We played it. We'll talk about that. It'll be the last game we cover. Actually, it won't, because it's technically September. I wanted to play this, but I was like, man, I don't even think I remember the rules. I have to I don't know, man. This game, maybe that was a bad night for me, but I just did not remember much about this one. It did not leave an impression on me where I left, and I was like, yes, that was a solid experience. So, take that as you might. And then we played Twilight Imperium. So I'm not going to lift this because everything is falling out of it, unfortunately. You see Twilight Imperium. It's there. Twilight Imperium, we got a 5-player game in. And that is because we had some friends. One of my friends came in from California. And so I took it, he loves Twilight Imperium. And I was like, we don't get to play this game very often. In fact, the last time I played Twilight Imperium was 2019. So I was like, if I can try to get a player group to play this on a Sunday, let's do that. So we played on, it looks like Sunday the 22nd, and incredible fun. And what I like about this game are the stories and the recollection that people have as we talk about the things that happened in the game. In fact, in this specific playthrough, we had a player who basically was so close to winning. He was around 8 points, and he made a push to take over someone's capital world to score a point. So another player noticed that and decided to take his home world so that he couldn't score the public objectives. And so that, ruined his plan, which then another player took that opportunity to try to do the same thing to score his public objective, which meant I took his home world, and then I eventually won because I was able to hold my home world and his home world. And and of course, this obviously is not as exciting for you guys because you weren't there, but it was a great game, 6 to 8 hours. I can't remember exactly how long I've been saying between that 6 and 8 hour mark. And that gameplay caused me to go buy the insert as well as the expansion for Twilight Imperium. I have been so harsh on Twilight Imperium, and maybe because it's been so long since I've played it, but I used to say this was one of my top 10 games. Twilight Imperium was one of my top 10 games, and then 2020 happened, and I never played it again. It just disappeared, and I forgot all about it. Maybe I forgot how much fun it was. Maybe I put too much emphasis into the time commitment that it was. But in the end of the day, once we played it again, I had an incredible time. It was one of my favorite games. And so I think it's found itself back in my top 10. It deserves a spot. It's such a good game. And I'm excited to try the expansion with it, because I hear it's a really good expansion. So I then went camping. We did a end of summer camping trip and did an Airbnb, and we took... Oh, I forgot there's another game on here I didn't record. Well, I'll talk about it. I brought War of the Ring, and we played 2 of these games. So each night we played, I played Sauron and the Forces of Shadow, and then my friend played, obviously, the Free People, and then we swapped the other night. And this is the first edition. Again, I'm still rocking the first edition. Have yet to break out the expansion, mostly because I'm still trying to make sure I fully understand the rules of this game. This is one of the heaviest games. In terms of true rule depth, this game has so many nuanced rules that you literally have to keep the rule book on hand, I feel like, for the entirety of the game as you're working through it, because there's so much stuff going on. But I feel like our second play, we really got it. We definitely cheated in the first game. There was just it was wild. We were just not doing things properly. But the second play, I actually watched, I went to bed that night. I put on the Brothers Murph. They had a playthrough for it. I watched them, and I just was like, okay, we did that wrong. Okay, we did that wrong. Most of the other stuff we got right. So when we played the second game, we made sure to correct those issues, and it's still an incredible game. I love this game. One of those ones that's with Twilight Imperium that, for the people who played the game, it leaves you with an incredible experience that you can talk about for the next few days and be like, man, that was so good, that was whatever. So really enjoyed that. I don't have the game over here because I didn't prep for it, but we played Enigma a few times on that camping trip as well. That is a game made by the same Crow OX, I believe, made the same people who did Deep State, a game I've done a review of. They sent me that game to do a review of, and I haven't reviewed it because it's just a little light in terms of what a review would be. It's maybe a 5-minute review, but I don't do 5-minute reviews. I don't know how I would do a 5-minute review. And the game's literally 5 to 20 minutes each game. Super light game, super simple game. It's basically just, I called it bullshit with memory, and that's what made it fun, because it's you're full of shit. I don't know. It's hard to explain the game. I don't know. It's kind of bullshit with memory involved. But it's wrapped up in a 1940s Enigma World War II theme. So we played that. And then the final thing we played, we brought out an old favorite. And that was Wingspan. And that was mostly because I had my fantasy drafts for fantasy football this last month, at the end of the month. And the people that are part of that fantasy draft know Wingspan, for one, and my friend from California who came up for the fantasy draft knows Wingspan. So I was like, I haven't really been playing this. I've been fading it pretty hard in terms of my personal collection, but it worked well for the player group. So we did a 5-player game, and I think Mark, who was a first-time player, won. He did. Yeah, Mark won. So congrats, Mark. You beat a group of veterans. And I usually say that the reason we shelved Wingspan is because we had too many games that were getting close to 100 or over 100 points. And it just felt like every game was so high scoring that it just was like, what's the frickin' point? You know, like 100 points is a lot for Wingspan. Like normally I think points are between 40 and 70, and if you get over 80, you generally win. So when you have multiple people scoring 100 points, it's like, man, it's just really, I don't know, we really figured it out. I feel like we figured it out. So that's it. I know this is a longer episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the kind of rambling aspect of the game. I try to keep this somewhat entertaining. In terms of games I sold, nothing's left my collection this month. I think if I do a sold, I have a whole list of games I want to sell over there. I just haven't gone through actually pricing them out and marking them up, or whatever, not marking them up, but like getting them ready for sell. I think I might do a dedicated video to that, like games leaving the collection, kind of steal Alex's idea because I think those are really cool. But in terms of sold, yeah, nothing's left the collection. Just kind of dumping expansion boxes. In fact, that's something you guys should do. Go out right now, find some expansion boxes you're holding in your closet, and just throw them away. Get rid of them, because that's what I did. It's a lot of fun. All right, guys, this is Brian from Game Brigade. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscription if you're new, join the community. And if you really want to support me, consider joining the Patreon. Help me out for $1. I really appreciate it. I will talk to you guys very soon. Bye-bye.